eyes wide open.
The heart of Appalachia, legends whisper of unseen spirits and shadowy figures. Don't forget to subscribe as we step deep into the misty woods to uncover what many refuse to talk about. Are they lost or something much darker? Let's take a look.
In the Appalachian Mountains, the woods come with rules. Rules your grandparents don't explain. They just expect you to follow. Don't whistle. Don't answer your name. And if you see someone you know standing in the trees, no, you didn't.
If you're doing what I'm doing and like laying in bed right now and you're about to watch this story, you may want to flip a freaking light on. This one I have had to spend all day gearing myself up for because it is just that creepy and it scares me that bad. I don't like to think about this. I don't like to talk about it. But yeah, we're just going to all agree right now. We do not claim any like negative or bad energy from this video. Go watch some like happy frilly after you watch this. And just be prepared. So just like a little bit of a trigger warning on that. This is not just, this did happen in the Appalachian Mountains. This story did take place in the same house. It is just not, it's not involving Appalachian like cryptids. It is something that is just, I don't know how else to say it. It's just like pure evil. Now this is a sleep paralysis story, that happened to my mom in that house in Tennessee when we were young. And, if you've ever had sleep paralysis, you already know. You already understand. I have had it myself at various points in my life, and it is terrifying. It is horrible. I'm lucky that I've not experienced it in years, but this is the first time that it ever happened to my mom, and something was in our house that was absolutely pure evil this night. So buckle up. I'm literally laying here looking like a floating freaking head. Okay, so I'm having a hard time feeling like I'm like procrastinating. I've like redone this like 2 or 3 times because I just do not feel emotionally ready to like go through this whole story. I usually don't go like, tell things that are of like a darker nature, or at least I haven't so far. But this is just one that you just have to share it because we're just going to bust this shit out. We're just going to do it. Okay. So like I said, this story took place at the same house in the Appalachians of Tennessee that I grew up in. And it involves my brother, who was 5 or 6 at the time, and my mom and my dad. Okay. So, my mom, it's the middle of the night. She and dad are in bed. All of us are in bed, and, my mom was in that place where you're like not quite awake, but you're not quite asleep yet. Sorry for the glare on my glasses. My dad is asleep and she's kind of in that in between. And all of a sudden, she feels this presence come into the room with her. And if you have ever felt something like this, there is something just innate within you that you don't even have to have experienced it or been familiar with something. You just know that this is something that it makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck. It is something that is there to do you harm, and it does not have good intentions, and it just feels evil. It feels very wrong. And it like sucks the air out of the room. It sucks the air out of your lungs. So my mom had never experienced sleep paralysis. She didn't even know what it was. When she told me this story years later, I was like, that's sleep paralysis, Mom. And people have different, experiences with the sleep paralysis. This was something that was like demonic. I don't know. So, she feels it come in the room. Now, she can't see anything, but when she goes to like move or sit up or start praying, she realizes she is completely paralyzed. Words will not come out of her, like her mind is racing. Her mind is racing. Words will not come out of her mouth. She is trying so hard to speak. She can feel the warmth of my dad's body next to her in the bed, and she is trying so hard just to move her fingers to reach my dad to try to wake him up, and she can't. She literally is like that, paralyzed. She cannot move. And she super quick side note, we respect all spiritual paths, all religious beliefs on this page. I'm telling this story from a completely unbiased standpoint. My parents are Christians. This is what brought my mom comfort during a really scary moment, and this is what her reaction was to it. So she is she's trying to, sorry for the glare again, she's trying to pray out loud or like say the name of Jesus. She cannot get it out of her mouth. She knows that if she can like get it out of her mouth, that it's going to make this thing go away. And she said that finally, like this thing, it is like getting closer and closer and closer to her. And she said that it got to the point where it's like standing, she could feel it standing over her bed. I've had the same happen. Like, this is so freaking creepy to me. So it is standing over her in the bed. It is like, and then it gets to where it is like on her body, like on her chest, like sucking the air out of her, sucking like the life force out of her. And she said that it was the most terrifying thing that she has ever felt in her entire life, and she really thought that she was going to be unalived. And she said that she could just feel tears streaming down her face. And she finally is able to, in barely a whisper, she said it was just above a whisper, get out the name Jesus, or the name Jesus. She said, Jesus, help me. And she was able to just keep saying that. She keeps repeating it over and over. Jesus, please help me. Jesus, help me. And it woke my dad up. Now, my dad, he's not superstitious. He does not believe in like paranormal, superstitious kind of. He hears my mom just saying like, Jesus, help me, or I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. He sits straight up. He lays over her and puts his arm over her body, does not know what is going on. He just knows, and he felt it. He felt the same exact thing. Now, if my dad says he feels something, that's some serious stuff, because like I said, that is just not my dad. And he just starts praying. And so finally, this thing, whatever, this demonic thing, releases my mom, releases her body. She can move again. She can talk again. Now, they are both sitting in the bed. She is just like weeping because this like petrified her. And next thing you know, they tangibly feel this presence just leave the room. And this part always makes me feel so freaking sick. My little 5-year-old brother, he had never done anything like this. Next thing you know, he screams from across the house, Mommy, Daddy, help me. It's in my room. As a mother, that is so freaking scary. Like, thinking about my helpless, innocent baby, and like something attacking me and then leaving my room and going and attacking my baby. don't mess with my freaking kid, you know? So they get up, they run into my brother's room, and they grab him up, and they just kneel on the floor in his room and are like hugging him and praying, and just sat there praying and crying until that thing left his room. And I don't know if my mom has had sleep paralysis since then. If she has, definitely not anything like that, not like that severe, you know. But yeah, I like I said, I've had sleep paralysis before. I've had the exact same kind of thing happen, the same presence, like I remember my dad, he used to he was a pastor for a long time. There was this church that he pastored, and it had a parsonage attached to it. Now, if you don't know what a parsonage is, it is a house on the church property that is for the pastor and his family. We didn't fully move in there, but we would stay there on weekends, or just sometimes on Sundays, and there was something wrong with that house. And it's on a church property. That sounds counterintuitive, or like a contradiction in terms, I should say. That specifically the upstairs bedroom. I have not had sleep paralysis that many times in my life, but let me tell you, any time that I stayed in that upstairs bedroom and I slept in that bed over and over again without fail, I had sleep paralysis. Like, excuse me, like the most like terrifying, evil, I don't know. It was so freaking creepy in that upstairs bedroom. I don't know what happened there. So yeah, there was something wrong with that bedroom upstairs. That whole house felt freaking creepy, but specifically that room. It felt like something was like standing over your shoulder, like breathing, into your neck or something, and like watching you, and it felt super, super off. Not good vibes. And so I always had sleep paralysis there. It got to the point where I would not, if I stayed overnight there, I would not sleep in that room. I would sleep on the couch downstairs. And even then I would get creeped out. So yeah, I always had it at that church parsonage. And then there was like another point in my life when I was still with my ex-husband, where for like a spurt of time, it felt like something just kept coming and attacking me at night, and I would have sleep paralysis. And same thing where like I would feel my husband's body laying in bed next to me, and I'm trying so hard to reach him to wake him up. And sometimes I'd wake him up, like, cause he would hear me like gasping or trying to like talk, and I couldn't. And and then one other place, I used to be a caretaker for somebody who had like a traumatic brain injury, and his hospital bed was in the living room of the house. And sometimes if he would take a nap during the day, I would sit on the couch and like doze off. And any time that I like dozed off in that house, I had sleep paralysis there, because the vibes were, I don't know.
Again, at 2:44 this morning, I heard a bang on the wall. And we're going to go check it out to see if there's any footsteps or anything like that. Still snow. But yeah. Is that what it was, though? Was it? What is that? Oh, that's one of your Christmas things. Just put it on the porch. No. Hey, be careful. Those crazy icicles that'll murder you. Hold on. Hold on. Now listen.
No.
Will they fall like that, though? I don't think they would fall like that. Let me see. Hold on. I don't know. Maybe that's what it was. But it did. it didn't hit the wall. It hit the bricks out here like that.
Mom.
Yeah. But, like...
Oh, I forgot the gloves. Okay.
Let me see this again. Okay. No, I don't think so. We live in the Appalachian Mountains, part of it, and that's why we were, because if you've ever heard anything about the Appalachian Mountains, you didn't hear shit.
If you hear a noise, no you didn't. If you hear a scream, no you didn't. If you hear anything, no you didn't. If you see anything, no you didn't.
Yeah, and that's why we're like, because it could come right down from that hill. So, yeah. And I'm pretty sure it could be anywhere up there. You know what I mean? The Appalachian Mountains. We live in it. There she is. But yeah, it's all up there. But yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. We live in the Appalachian Mountains and weird shit happens all the time. Sounds but our bedroom wall gets hit, I'm guessing every single night. Like it sounds like someone's throwing a snowball, but I mean, who would be out there at 12 something at night, or 2:44, or 4:35 at night in the morning? Nobody's that stupid. I mean, maybe, but it's so cold. No. Yeah, we'll keep you updated. So, and she's checking up there. She said there's nothing anywhere. So, yeah. If you know the rules of the Appalachian Mountains, you know what I'm saying. Peace. This is to add to the part 2. She's up on the hill over there, and she said she sees footprints. So, what was that? Get down here. There's something up there, guys. Get your down here. Hurry. Okay. Shh, shh, shh. Shh, stop. Stop. Okay. Sorry, it's gonna be a long video, but there was noise going on in the woods up there. It sounded like, I don't know what it sounded like, but it was loud, and it was like, yeah, like knocking. And you know how it sounds when your footprints, when you're stepping in the snow? That's what it sounded like. It sounded like someone was coming. It sounded like someone was coming down the hill, but I couldn't see who it was. I had my phone out there looking, but I couldn't see who it was.
What the heck?
So,
Dude, I skidded.
stay tuned.
So I have a bunch of trees in my backyard, but there's this one that doesn't look like the other trees. So I'm gonna go check that one out because it has pretty red leaves or flowers next to it, and it's interesting. Here's the tree. It's dead, but it's very pretty. And there's these weird things that are in it. I don't know what that's for. And it has crazy holes that I like. But here's the pretty red things. Flowers. No, they're leaves. Those are leaves. Oh, I like you. What is that?
For almost a year, nothing else happened. Then in 2021, things took a darker turn.
So I'm walking around the fence line of my property, and I've noticed someone or something has put something on pretty much all of my fence posts. I don't know if someone's like me or that this is something else, but like it's literally all like bones or like a creepy doll. I don't know what that was.
While walking along her fence line one afternoon, Lauren discovered that every fence post had been marked with disturbing items, bones, broken dolls, and other unrecognizable objects. Whether this was the work of a person or something else entirely was unclear. Days later, more incidents began to unfold. She would hear noises outside, but every time she checked, no one was there.
But I'm not sorry that I couldn't find something. 19 minutes!
Luna, come on.
On one occasion, after returning indoors, an unseen force seemed to tug her hair upward, an eerie moment caught on her home security camera. A few nights later, while she was on a call with her boyfriend, her front door suddenly slammed shut and locked, on its own trapping her outside. Her dog Luna remained inside alone, barking and pacing nervously near the window. Lauren called out, but there was no response, only silence.
Dude, my door just closed. Yes, and it's locked. I just got locked out of my house. Yes, nobody's here.
That's kind of scary. Where's the door?
Luna! Luna's inside by herself. I don't even see her in there. Hang on.
Don't even think about it. Lady? Hello? Touched.
For the next 2 months, everything went quiet. Then late one night, the peace shattered when someone began knocking on her window.
Luna, come here. Sit. Come here. Look. Can't see.
She tried to look outside but saw nothing. Fear took over as she checked her backyard, still no one was there. What caused these events remains unknown. After that final night, Lauren stopped posting altogether.
So recently, my husband and I were chased by something in the woods of the Appalachian Mountains. And I had pretty much already decided that I was not going to share this story on here. I didn't want to bring energy to it, and it's caused a spiral effect of other paranormal things to happen since it happened. So I was just going to let it go. But I got to thinking, I need to tell you guys this because this is literally the reason that I tell you guys the rules. Because all it takes is you to break a rule when one is close by, and this can happen to you. So here's the story, and here's what I did. It was my fault. So we were visiting my parents a few nights ago. They live on a pretty secluded farm surrounded by woods. So it's later in the nighttime, like not super late, but later. And we're sitting outside, and I'm trying to get their dog's attention, and he will not look at me. And I whistled, because I guess I forgot where I was. I realized what I did, look over at my husband to see if anyone else heard what I did, and this man's face is pale. So it's like we have a silent agreement to just pretend I didn't do that and act like nothing happened. There was an energy shift when I did it, but I honestly think it was just my anxiety. So anyways, we're all sitting out there, and then just out of nowhere, there is a scream. It's the most guttural scream I've ever heard. It sounded like a male scream, and it came from behind the house. So we were sitting on the front porch. It came maybe from the back porch. It was so close. So my dad's like, what was that? And I was like, probably nothing. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. Just like trying to get him to shut it down and ignore it. But at this point, no one's having a good time out there. The energy is not the best. So shortly after this, my husband and I leave, and I tell my parents bye and walk out of the house before he does. So I walk down their front steps, and I'm walking down their pathway to get to my car, and something is wrong. Like I said, there's trees everywhere, and there's like a field with a bunch of trees to my right. And that is where this feeling is coming from. So I look straight ahead. I know I am not supposed to look to the side, and I get to the car, and as soon as I'm to the car door, I turn around because I hear my husband come outside. So I wait for him to make eye contact with me, and I do like this motion to tell him to like look straight ahead. And so he nods and he comes to the car, he opens my door, gets me inside, and then gets in the car. So we give each other a horrified glance and an unspoken agreement to not talk about it right now, and we drive away. So you have to drive through a bunch of woods to get out of that area and back to my house. So I knew this was not going to be fun. The entire drive was horrible. We had all of our windows up, and not too far into the drive, we started hearing whistling. But it was my whistle. It was me. It sounded like my weird whistle that I did. So we're hearing this all around us through the trees, because trees are on both sides of this road. But the issue is it sounded far away, which means that thing was close. So we keep our eyes straight. I don't look into the trees at all, and I just try to get out of there. This was not the first time I've been chased by this thing. The first time I didn't know, which made it a little less scary. This time I knew, and it was horrifying. And if you guys remember, a few months ago, I had a friend that had a weird experience as well. She was hiking with her family, and they saw something, and their car got chased. And I'm wondering if this was the same thing, because it was kind of in the same area. I did talk to her about it when I got home, and we're pretty sure it was the same thing. And all of this was started because I made the mistake of accidentally whistling for my dog when one of these things was too close. Don't whistle.
My thing is this. Yes, the Appalachians are creepy, but also I don't think all supernatural stuff that happens in the Appalachians is necessarily dark. Okay? I just don't believe that. For example, one thing that a lot of people overlook is the fact that a lot of supernatural beings will live in those mountains because of how old they are and how hidden they are and how inaccessible certain aspects and certain areas of them are. For example, some cultures call them fairies. Some cultures call them fae. Some cultures call them trolls. Some people call them gnomes. Some people say little people, but there are little forest beings. And I know not everybody believes this, but this is the thing. It's not always like about something wrong turnish. Sometimes it's like beings that don't have to be bothered by humans. Now, if you don't believe in this sort of thing, I'm not necessarily here to convince you. I know what I know because I'm a spiritualist, and I had spent, in the beginning of my spiritual journey, I was absolutely obsessed with fairies. Like, I wanted to know everything about them. So in the Appalachians, the indigenous people, the Indians, they have reservations and all throughout the Appalachians. They have these beings that they call Yunwi Susi. Yunwi Susti. I don't know how they say it. But basically they're talking about little forest beings. And basically these are sometimes what some people say are taking the children sometimes. Now I don't want to put that out there because if there are cases, they usually lure people away from groups. They can be tricksters or they can be healers. They can help you if you are hurt by telling you what to get in the forest to make yourself better. This is how a lot of our recipes came about, how we know how certain herbs go with certain things, is because there are spirits in nature that guide you and help you to learn about nature. Sometimes the plants themselves will talk to you, and sometimes the spirits that are in nature, the nature spirits will talk to you, and sometimes it's synonymous. Sometimes these beings look like, for example, you have to have like a certain eye. You got to have a certain frequency to even be able to connect with these beings because a lot of them look like nature. You may see a being that's a stick that looks like it's a stick, but it's actually a being. Now y'all gonna think I'm tripping. Some of y'all gonna think I'm crazy, but I'm just telling y'all. I'm just telling you what I know. Okay. They're also like, they can be mischievous. They could be evil. Think about this. Like humanity is a species of its own. We got good ones. We got bad ones. We got goofy ones. We got stubborn and bitter ones. Like, it's the same with nature spirits. They all got their own personalities. I'm trying to tell you. And they sometimes come in categories like sylphs, gnomes, jinn, because they're elemental in nature as well. And this will contribute to their personality traits. But I'm not here to make people believe this. At the end of the day, if you were to ever interact with one of them, I don't even think they would reveal themselves to people that can't see them. Like, they wouldn't even be able to, because you have to be a part of a certain dimension to even interact with these beings. But unless they choose to reveal themselves to you in the 3-dimensional world. But the stories I have heard about them and how they come to people, they can like lure people away. Just like sirens. You know how sirens lure people away? If you don't believe it, look into Haiti and how they feel about sirens, mermaids. They call them, I don't know what they call them over there. But anyway, point is, these are nature spirits that will lure you away, basically. Some of them got good intentions, some of them got bad intentions. But when you leave, when you go with them, some people actually return, some people never come back. Some people come back and they've been gone for years and they feel like they've only been gone for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Some people be gone and they feel like they've been gone like for years and they only been gone 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's making sense, but time is different in different dimensions. So when I talk about the Appalachians, I'm not only talking about the creepy shit. I don't think it's only creepy shit in there. I don't think it's only creepy things that happen. I think there's beings that you don't know ever existed in there. I think there's things that you have never seen that live in certain places where humans can't go. So the point is, there are many beings that are hidden in areas of this plane of existence that we cannot see. And they do have an effect on us if we do come in contact with them, if they choose to reveal themselves to us. So I think that is a lot of the lore around the Appalachians that a lot of people don't know about. I don't think it's, now my personal opinion and problem with the Appalachians is the fact that I think this is where creepy ass human beings go to do shit away from the public eye. That's what I don't like about it. But I also think there are areas of it, like the 400 and some mile cave, Mammoth Cave is 400 and some miles. Think about that. I want y'all to think about that. You know how far 400 miles is? Cave in the Appalachians, in Kentucky. Of course there are beings down there that humans have never seen. And of course they may have abilities that humans have never believed or would ever know. Because they are ancient. They are not a part of whatever we have been dealing with that is causing us to become latent and debilitated on different levels. They don't have to deal with that. Still very much connected to, and if we're going to be real, this is just the conspiracy part of me. Beings from back in the day, such as dragons. With that being said, a lot of beings were doing different things, but they have been brought down because of what humans have done to the planet. So if you think about what's hidden in the Appalachians and how they don't have any access to those beings are going to be a little different.
In the summer of 2021, I was approached by an elderly gentleman who said that he had had an encounter many years earlier that he wanted to tell me about. As a matter of fact, the words he uses get off his chest. He said that he had not spoken of it since the night it happened, the night that he described to his father what happened. And so we sat down and talked, and I listened to the man's stories. I saw his eyes kind of glaze over as he went back in time. And I would say that almost immediately that you could see kind of a fear in his face. He said November of 1952, he was 14 years old and was living on a small family farm, northeastern Rutherford County, which was butted right up against the South Mountains. That particular night, he was getting ready to go to bed, and his father came to him and said that he needed him to go down to the shed and check the gas valve on the tractor. He said that it was about a quarter mile from the house, down a little narrow dirt road. So that immediately he was frightened to do that. He was scared to do that. because the local guidelines was you simply didn't go outside at night far away from the house unless you absolutely had to. But also the encounters and the stories that his grandfather had shared with him regarding a wampus, which was just an old-fashioned word for a booger or a monster. He was also raised that if an elder asked you to do something, that you did it. And so he pulled his overalls on and he grabbed a lantern and he lit the lantern and he went out. He said immediately upon going out of the house into the darkness that he felt just a sense of uneasiness, was very uncomfortable, just a bad feeling in general. And that he chalked it up to his mind trying to play games with him, and that he was determined not to be a scaredy cat. He said as he walked down that dirt road and he started this journey down to the shed and the barn area, that feeling increased, the bad feeling, a feeling that he was being watched by somebody, that it just got worse with every step that he took. And he said as he approached the gate to this area, that he heard off to his right an animal sound. And I asked him to describe it. He said, well, it was an animal sound he had never heard before, but that it sounded like a sick owl, only with a really deep voice. And I further pressed him, and he made the sound of whoop, whoop. And he continued his story as he was trying to get the gate unfastened. He said he was already nearly to a state of panic and his hands were shaking. As he was trying to get that chain unhooked, that he heard something walking just behind the shed, this barn area. And he got through the gate and he got to the shed where the tractor was, and that he was immediately overcome by this foul stench. He said that he had smelled it a few times in the past, only it was very faint. But he said that night it was so strong that it was nauseating. And I asked him to describe the odor to me, and he said that it smelled like a pig that had been wallowing in a pig pen that was full of rotten bodies. And that's pretty characteristic of that smell in terms of correlating it with what other people have reported. But that as he got to the tractor, he set his lantern down, and he looked under there where that valve was. And as he began to move the valve with his hands were shaking, that he heard the walking again close to him, and that stench was even stronger. He managed to get that valve turned off. He said it seemed like an eternity getting that valve to shut off, but he got it. And so he picked his lantern up and he hurried back to the gate. And he was trying to close the gate, and hands shaking, and he was fumbling that chain around, and he finally got it latched. And he again heard the footsteps, only they seemed to be paralleling him. That it was just out of the reach of his lantern, out into the pasture beside that shed. He said that he turned around, and before he knew it, he was running. But the problem was he was carrying that lantern, and you can't see very far ahead of you carrying a lantern, 5-6 feet, something like that. That he forced himself to slow down. He said the oddest thought popped in his mind. His daddy had this old plow sitting beside the dirt road, and that he pictured running into that thing in the dark, and nobody wants to run into an iron plow with their shin. He said he forced himself to stop running and was at a quick pace. And that as he went up the dirt road, that plow came into view. And one more step revealed that someone, he said he thought someone was standing behind the plow. But another step revealed, in his words, that it was not somebody, that it was something. And I asked him to describe it. He said it was very, very big, 7-8 foot tall, or even taller. And that it looked to be covered in a dark colored hair. He said, except for the face. He said he could see the mouth, but he could see the eyes. And he said it was the eyes that to this day, all these years later, he was 14 years old in 1952. Here it is, the early 2000s. And he said that it still to this day makes him have nightmares to think about those eyes looking at him. I asked him to describe it. He said as he held that lantern up, that those eyes shined red, and that it was just staring at him, and that it would blink and turn its head off to the one side, cock its head to the other side. And he said that in his words, he said he couldn't go anywhere. He felt paralyzed. In his exact words was that he said he felt like he was standing in 2 deep post holes. He said he couldn't yell, that he couldn't move a muscle, and that thing was just staring at him and moving its head a little bit. He said that it grunted, and I asked him to describe the grunt. He said it was a very deep version of something like you would hear out of a boar hog. But he said finally, he was opening his mouth, nothing was coming out, and finally something came out. He was yelling for his father, and he finally was able to vocalize it. He said by then he was shaking so bad that his heart was going to beat out of his chest, and that when he yelled, that the thing moved its head and grunted again and stared at him for another couple of seconds, and then just calmly turned and walked away. He said it had approached the fence just beside the dirt road. He said it stepped over the fence. He said it didn't jump the fence. It didn't have to have any effort getting over the fence. It just stepped over the 4-foot fence. And that it walked into the darkness. And as soon as he lost sight of it, he started running. He said, if I ran into something, I was just going to run into it. But he ran all the way back to the house, screaming for his father. His father come out the back door onto the back porch and met him at the steps and said, what's wrong? What's going on? And he started telling him, and the father said, lower your voice. And he began to tell his father what happened. And his father said, I don't want you to ever forget this. He said, if you ever go back out at night again, you take my pistol, or if I can't go with you, you take somebody. If somebody can't go with you, you have that pistol on you. But never forget this night. And he said that his father told him, never speak of this again to anybody. And that his father also said that they would talk more about it later. And they did. But he said to this day that he has nightmares about those red eyes. Real quick, an elderly couple came to me in the winter of 2022 and said that they had had an encounter that night before. This was in November of 2022. And that they was riding up a road here in this area, north of Kaiser. And as they went up a hill, off to the right, he said he noticed this large person. He said as he got closer, he said it was way too large to be a man. And he said, I seen that it was covered in hair. He said, I slowed down because I was afraid it was going to step out in front of me. He said, as they approached it, it turned its head and looked at them. And when the lights hit its eyes, that they shone red. And him and his wife were both shaken and said, we'll never go out after dark again.
Made it to the Appalachian Mountains. So far, no skinwalkers. Yeah, I'm not staying.
Rope anyone.
If you've ever felt watched or seen something just beyond the light, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. As always, stay safe, stay aware, and question everything.